Rita, would you do roll call?
Commissioner Bottenberg,
Present.
Commissioner Mishra,
Present.
Chair Martin,
Present.
Commissioner Hefner,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Jarvie.
Present.
Okay, thank you. All right, would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, have you all had a moment to read tonight's agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. And the minutes from our last meeting in November, if we had time to read that, could I have a motion to approve?
I can move to approve the agenda as presented. I mean, what am I talking about? The minutes of the
Oh.
November meeting.
Yeah, I second.
November? October? I'm
November.
looking at, it says October.
November. It says October there.
The form here says October.
October 8th, regular meeting, yeah.
So we had a motion and an approval on the minutes.
Oh, I see.
Do you need a motion and a second and then us all approve?
I think so.
Mhm.
So do we all approve of the minutes? Say aye.
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 Thank you. Any public comments for tonight?
I have nobody online for public comment.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Then we'll just move on to new business. And I think we're going to start with a review of 2025. I think Rita has something prepared.
Absolutely. So this is just a very quick overview of what we did last year. And so in January, we had a work plan discussion. We discussed the calendar for the year. And then in February, we elected the chair and vice chair, reviewed commission bylaws, and then we also heard from fourth quarter reporting. So we were able to sort of, staff were able to give a breakdown as to how nonprofits fared during the fourth quarter. In March, we had newly funded nonprofit provider panel. We had two established nonprofits, Lake Washington Schools Foundation and Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, who we have funded in the past, but we had two new programs from them. From the foundation, it was the Links Mentor Program, and for Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, it was their case management. And then we also heard from Bright Spark and Dawn, the Domestic Abuse Women's Network. And then in April, we had the town centre update. And then we also had a study session with the Sammamish Youth Board. If you recall, we had leadership come and speak with you. And there was a great study session where there were some questions and answers between both the youth board and the commission. In May, we went to the Together Centre and spoke to the Indian American Community Services about their range of programming from women's mentorship programs, the youth program, senior program, as well as many other mental health programs. And then in June, we had the Youth Mental Wellness Provider Panel. And if you recall, we had Zach, the Director of Counselling from CrossPath, as well as Jamie, who has now left. And then we had Friends of Youth and then Paul G, the counsellor for Inglewood Middle School. And then that was a great discussion. And, I think the commission understood a lot of what's going on in that area. In July, we had a road trip out to Issachar, and then we really were able to walk through the Issachar Food and Clothing Bank and better understand what they do and how they provide their services to the community. In September, we had the nonprofit provider panel. We had Essentials First, Issachar Community Services, and St. Vincent de Paul. If you recall, St. Vincent de Paul and Issachar Community Services provide rental and utility assistance. And we had a discussion with all three providers. And then, oops. Oh, Rich, this is not working. Sorry, excuse me. That mic button. This is why I'm glad Rich is here, because we need technical assistance. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's go to the next one. Thank you. All right. And then in October, we spoke to the Sammamish Police. If you recall, we spoke to Officer Matt Martin, and he's the community engagement officer. And we talked about what he's seeing in the community and had a great sort of discussion about connecting him with different nonprofits, which I have been doing. Okay, that's good. Now, can we go to the next one, Rich? Thank you. And then in November, we had the senior provider panel. We had Eastside Friends of Seniors attend, and then also we understood more about the Beaver Lake Seniors program that happens 3 times a week. So we had a great discussion there. And then in December, we had off, if you go to the next slide, and that is it. So that's just a very high level overview. If you recall, 2025 was going to be the year of learning. And really trying to set up the Commission for Success for reviewing applications this coming year. I think it was a very good, robust, diverse kind of year for you all. You understood lots of the different focus areas and were able to speak to many of the providers. So next we're going to, and by the way, any questions before I move on to the calendar for 2026? Yes, Commissioner Jarvie.
I had a question on if you could talk about the fourth quarter, the Sammamish City Council approving funds for human services. It was after our November meeting.
Yeah,
if
so
you could share your perspective
of course,
on that.
yeah. So I in the November meeting we had mentioned as staff that the council was going to be approving 200,000 of additional funding. And that was for immigrant and refugee nonprofits. So as staff, we looked at existing nonprofit providers that we currently fund. So 50,000 was given to Indian American Community Services, 50,000 was given to the Circle. That was for a lot of legal clinics, etc. 25,000 was given to Central Cultural Mexicano, 25,000 for Tomorrow, and then 25,000 to Hope Link and 25,000 to Issachar Food and Clothing Bank. And so those funds have been released into, because I think council's intent was to get it into the community as quick as possible. So that has been released out into the community. So we actually set up separate contracts for those organizations. Yeah.
Will they be reporting to us? When they report, will they include these additional funds?
Great point. So that additional funding, we're looking at it in a very different way to our regular human services funding. They will be providing reporting, but it's not going to be the same quarterly reporting. They got the money up front, and then we're asking for 2 reports. So they'll give a final report in July of this year.
Okay, thank you.
A question.
Sure.
I heard you say 50 for ICS, 25 each for Tomorrow and Hope Link. Was the 50 immigration, or what was that other comment you made?
So for IACS, they are doing a lot of legal clinics, and they're working with a lot of the other nonprofits. because it's very hard to get like pro bono, low bono legal
Mhm.
advice. And so they have a very robust structure for like very like free legal advice, and they've got a lot of attorneys and staff, and they've done a great job of collaborating with smaller nonprofits that don't have the structure to be able to bring in attorneys. And so they've worked very collaboratively with the Circle, the Central Cultural Mexicano, and For Tomorrow, and bringing those legal clinics to those communities and nonprofits.
And what was the name again?
I'm sorry.
And what was it again? I missed the name also. That
So this was for IACS, and this is for legal clinics, and then they're supporting other nonprofits that aren't able to provide those legal clinics.
So this is a one-time, lump sum money which was given to the nonprofits.
Yes, yes.
This will not affect the budget of 2026. And how do we treat these nonprofits who have already got this amount? I mean, do we still treat them normally while assessing how much they get in 2026?
That's a great question. I think that's very like that is a one-time funding, and I think the prior city council really recognized the fact that there was a need in the community, and so that's a one-time funding. And so as far as like looking at applications, I would treat that as apples and pears, in that like the funding that is going to be coming for the applications that you're going to be reviewing later on this year, that is for 27 and 28. So great question. But yes, I mean, the sense is that that money will be used up by then. Yeah.
okay. Any other questions, Elizabeth?
Well, our commission didn't know about it ahead of time, did we?
No, so council basically said that we want to give 200,000, and they wanted it to be out as quick as possible. So they looked at staff recommendations, and then as staff, we were able to look at the current nonprofits and where the need was. And so, yeah, that's what we did. So we brought out a recommendation to council.
Is we, you and Mike? Who's we?
The city manager's office, yeah.
Okay.
Myself, Mike, and the city's manager's office, yeah.
Why 200,000?
It's a great question. I don't know. I was given that number, 200,000. That was allocated by the then mayor, and yeah. And I think the intent is to get it into the community as quick as possible.
So was the need communicated to the mayor and the city council by the city manager's office, and then this action was taken? Or how
No.
were they aware of this need? And just curiosity.
Well, yeah, no, I think they're just in the community and understanding what's happening currently right now, and speaking to various nonprofits and getting a sense that there was this very urgent need for legal funding in particular. And then also with the SNAP benefits going, there are a lot of families that were not eligible, or definitely had more food insecurity. So I think there was just a lot going on a macro level, and then also just speaking to organizations on a local level and understanding that there was a need. And I think the SNAP was the big one as well.
And SNAP, was that through HopeLink, or who was it from?
So SNAP we're giving both Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank and HopeLink money towards that.
Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank was not included in that group.
It was, I beg your pardon. Yes, it was. It was HopeLink and Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank. Yeah.
Is there any way we can get the information at the time it's happening rather than hear about it 3 months later?
You guys, I believe as staff, we had given you a report in November that this was happening in the staff report. Yeah.
That was an email, right? Didn't you email that to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions before we go to 2026 calendar?
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the new calendar.
great. So this is a very quick, so 2026 year in review. We just go, there's only 2 slides on this, Rich, so it should be fairly. Okay. So if we look here, we have gone ahead and populated the calendar. So next month we'll be welcoming the new commissioner who is here in the audience. And we'll then do election of chair and vice chair, and then have 4th quarter reporting. And then on Monday, March the 2nd, the Human Services funding applications will open. Prior to that, or around that same week, we'll have a funders workshop, both in Renton and in Redmond. And the intent of that is to really invite everyone that is thinking of applying to attend one of those workshops. Bear in mind that in, I think, October last year, we definitely reached out to many organizations that have not applied for funding in the past to basically say, okay, if you're thinking of applying for funding, this is what you need. Because I don't think it's enough to reach out to folks that might be interested, because to get public dollars, you need to be a 501c3, you need insurance, you need to have reporting, you need to have data. And so really, by meeting all these organizations in October, I think there were over 20, it was a really good opportunity to speak to them about what you need for applying for funding, and what kind of reporting you need to do. So we'll have on the week of March the 2nd, we'll have a funders workshop. I'll attend the Redmond one. It's normally at Redmond council chambers, and we go through like the actual application, and then we take questions as well. And then it's also an opportunity for funders, for providers to come and speak to funders individually after the presentation's done. And this is interesting. So we haven't done this before, but we actually have a joint equity training on Saturday, March the 14th. I'm very sad to be biting into your weekend. However, as staff, we looked at do we do it over 2 evenings? And that's a lot. So we felt like we would bite the bullet, and it's a 3-hour training on Saturday, March the 14th at 9 a.m. And I think in the packet,
It says 6:30. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually physically went and crossed that out. So it's actually 9 a.m. on Saturday, March the 14th. It's a joint commission training with Redmond, Kirkland, and Issaquah. And I think we'll have like a half-hour meet and mingle over bagels and coffee, and then we'll have like a 3-hour training with maybe a 20-minute recess in the middle. And I apologize, it's a weekend, it's a Saturday. Hopefully, you guys have ample time, but I think this is preferable to get it done in one go than have it over 2 evenings.
Do you know what the venue is?
It's going to be Redmond City Hall. Yeah.
Redmond.
Yeah. City Hall. And I'll send you information on that. So Redmond seems to be a good equidistance for everyone, and there will be ample parking, and they also have a very big a big council chambers as well. So
I have a question about that nonprofit status that you were referring to. I know the last time we looked, that Kirkland needs to make sure that you had the 501c3 a year in advance of request. It's membership in Redmond upon submission of the application, and Issaquah upon contracting. So there's a big split as far as when you need to make sure that you're eligible to apply. Do you know what the status is for this year?
I do not know individual cities. I can only speak for Sammamish, so I would take it up with the individual city. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know Kirkland's insurance requirements or yeah. So we have the training, and then we have over a month for applications, and then on Monday, April the 6th, the applications will close, I believe at 4 p.m. As I say to all nonprofits, and we'll reiterate this at the funders workshop, do not leave it until Monday at 3, because invariably something will go wrong, or, you know, and everyone's trying to, so we always say like submit it on the Friday or Monday first thing. Also bear in mind that like during this application process, there'll be manned lines that as staff will take turns where we'll have like open lines where a nonprofit can call and ask questions, or if they've got problems, whatever else. So there's like a help desk, so to speak.
So for last year, I remember there was one nonprofit who missed the deadline.
Yes.
Are we doing any extra step this time to just send in more reminders, or probably have a point of contact who exactly is like, hey, do you know this is the deadline? Or are we doing any other extra steps this time to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, Commissioner Mishra, it pained me because the nonprofit I know very well. And unfortunately, like, you know, I mean, they've been like, they came to the funders workshop, it was in writing, it was in email, it was like emailed out. I mean, you know, I mean, it was just, I think I felt bad for the nonprofit, but I just don't think there was anything else that we could have done. And also the executive director admitted it was a brain fart on her end. And it was unfortunate for sure. And unfortunately, the thing is that if we were, and like Mike and I really grappled with that, like if we were to make an exception, then we had to make an exception for everyone else. And then we would have to say to everyone else, we're opening up the application. And then it becomes very difficult because we're in this with like 12 other cities. And yeah, I know. Maybe get them tattooed on their forehead. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it was really unfortunate. Yeah, and but I you know, I think we'll go through the same steps again. You know, reiterating this is the application deadline, and yeah.
So with your experience, Rita, has it happened in the past as well? Like someone has forgotten? Was it just last time that we had this odd case?
That was the first time.
Okay, that's good to know.
And I think the thing that was hard was because this was an organization we'd always funded, and we know they do great work. But from an equity point of view, you know, we have a date, we have a time, it's reiterated ad nauseum, and yeah.
That's good to know. It was just a one-time odd case.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah. Oh,
pretty
thank goodness.
promising.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there pretty much the same kind of information that's being provided to us and we're asking for, or do we have a separate little something that we want for our city?
So we'll look at a supplemental. I mean, I think it'll be very similar to what we've done in the past. And we tend to sort of say that, you know, as a commission, we'll have a focus more on Sammamish residents. And so that's the supplemental. And you know, so as a commission, you've also been tasked to sort of allocate this funding. And so I definitely think with a focus on Sammamish residents. And then that will also feature in our scorecard that we'll do for you as a commission, where and we can go into this, you know, when we look at the applications, but we have a score sheet for you as commissioners, and there's a real focus on that score sheet for having a Sammamish focus, just to help guide you in your review of applications.
Would it be useful at all for any of commissioners to attend these funders workshops, or would that be too intrusive?
I think I would say it can be a little bit awkward. I mean, look, it's an open meeting. Anyone can attend the meeting. I mean, it's not a closed meeting. You can absolutely attend. All we're doing is going through the application, but it's also a little bit, I would say it's a little bit, I think visually, like your funders, right? Like you're going to be making the decisions. So I just think the optics of it may not.
It might look biased or
Yeah, but again, it's an open meeting. Yeah. And it's also recorded. So you're welcome. And I can also send you the recording of the meetings as to, you know, it's normally Alaric, my peer in Redmond, that will go through the application. And yeah.
Okay, just interesting.
Yeah.
What's the dollar amount of the budget for this year?
So we don't know. I'm assuming it will be what we had last year.
Which isn't adequate.
Unfortunately, Commissioner Bottenberg, you well know that it's never enough, but we can only do what we can do. So, so my assumption is, as in past years, we'll have that magic number of what we funded last year. And if you recall, the commission had an additional ask, but it's really the will of the council. So, you know, as a commission, you're making recommendations. So, yeah.
Do we have the per capita type of information that we've had in previous years as to the dollar value from each of our 3 connections there, the Kirkland, Issaquah, and Redmond? Remember that we were at the $3.19 per person version as compared to their $18 and $25 and $30 one. Our budget was considerably lower.
Right. I think I'm quite wary of doing that because ultimately, like,
you don't want to rock the boat, I know. So,
right, like, you know, I think it's about like ultimately, as a commission, you're making a recommendation. It's council yaying or naying that, and I think, you know, the council would respect the work of the commission. They've appointed you guys there, and you know your deliberations. It's many months of deliberating. So yeah. I'm assuming that, I mean, I'll wait to get direction otherwise, but I'm assuming it will be the same dollar amount as the last go around.
Do you remember how much above we were of the ask last time?
It wasn't a huge amount. So you guys hit the base amount and then you had an additional ask, and it wasn't, I think it was maybe like 50,000
not
more.
as much as prior years.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So Commissioner Mishra, it wasn't a huge, it wasn't a big.
Is it okay to say that the city council then, with the 200K which they assigned right now as a one-off thing, they kind of tried to compensate for it, the ask which they couldn't say yes to before?
Well, like CrossPath, look at that example years ago there. And that still is retained within our review each year. But we've got the senior program at IACS working as sort of a outside of that. It doesn't really, it seems to be an interesting review each year. How can we somehow, because CrossPath is one of those, it takes the biggest percentage of our funding.
So your question, sorry, I'm not understanding your question, Commissioner.
Well, I'm just curious as if whenever is CrossPath going to be written into an ongoing one and not having to go through this crazy process of grant submissions.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. That's a great question. I can take that up with the at the city manager's office. I actually have a check-in. So
because that was like an October, November thing we brought forth that particular year, and it finally got accepted and funded in February or so.
Yeah. I will say with cross-path counselling, like we did not pay Q4 or Q3. Actually, I've got to look back and see, because if you recall, the counsellor left and we only pay based on service units. So,
right. Yeah, because they have the vacancy.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, so Monday, April the 6th, funding applications close. I am assuming we will get the application straight away. In the past, there would be one city that would be like converting them into PDF. I'm thinking we're in 2026. I'm sure it's going to be easy. We can just click a button. So, so what we'll do is that on our Wednesday, April the 8th meeting, we're assuming that we might make some changes to the bylaws in February. So we'll be approving them or adopting them in the April meeting. And then we'll do an overview. We'll do staff will do a presentation of the Human Services Grant Program. And then we'll look at the grant criteria discussion. And then we'll do grant review assignments. So for those folks that haven't been through the grant process before, we have like like a one, I think last go round it was at 1.5 million ask, and we've got to hit a 684,000 like, you know, ding 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 number. But there are lots and lots of applications. So as commissioners, you're privy to all applications. But what we have done in the past is that we will have 3 subgroups that will deep dive into certain applications. So if you recall, we have 5 focus areas: mental wellness, domestic violence, seniors, cultural inclusion, and basic needs. And so what we'll tend to do is that mental wellness and basic needs tend to be the larger subgroups for applications. So we'll look at the number of applications. The last go round, basic needs was its own subgroup. And then one of the subgroups was mental wellness, and one of them was cultural inclusion, seniors, and domestic violence. So we'll put those all into the different categories, and then as commissioners we'll have groups of 2s and 3s that will deep dive into those applications. And for commissioners that haven't been here before, we have the regular, you know, monthly meetings, but in between the subgroups will meet, and that's at a time that's convenient for you. It could be at the weekend, it could be the evening, could be the day. And then myself as staff, I will always attend those and just sit with you guys. So it can be in a coffee shop, it could be at City Hall, it could be in the evening, whenever works for you as a subgroup. I will make sure to attend. At that point, you will have had all the applications, and then you'll come together. Some groups come together once, some groups come together 2 or 3 times. It's up to you as a subgroup. And then at the next meeting, so in the April meeting, we'll have grant review assignments. And then in the May meeting, the mental wellness subgroup will present their recommendations. So, I mean, again, we're not looking at a number we're trying to reach. As a subgroup, you're bringing those recommendations to the commission as a whole. We'll sit here as a subgroup. You will present to the rest of the commission of where we would recommend this kind of funding for this, and then we'll go through each application, and you'll say a few sentences or words and take questions to an organization that you're not funding, or an organization you're fully funding, or maybe partially funding. So we'll do that in May for mental wellness, and then in June for cultural inclusion, domestic violence, and seniors, which will be its own subgroup. Again, that subgroup will come to the commission as a whole, and we'll go through each application, and you'll give out your recommendations for how much you want to fund. And then in July, we'll have the basic needs. Basic needs tends to be the largest subgroup, and then that subgroup will come and give their recommendations. So invariably what happens is that in our July meeting, our number of 683,000, like we're way, way, way ahead. Like, you know, so we may be at like 1.2 million. So it's fantastic. And I'm sure Commissioner Botterberg, you can attest to this. It's fantastic just seeing the commission work to how to get to that magic number. Mike has an Excel spreadsheet, and it's in red, and the whole thing is we need to get to green. And when we do get to green, I think there needs to be some like fireworks coming off or whatever. So it's great to see the commission working to come to that recommendation, and how you come to it is up to you as a commission. You can decide to, like, you know, everybody like peanut butter it and just be like, okay, everybody needs to be reduced by 20% to get to that magic number. Or you can say that, okay, there's a particular focus area that we don't want to like kind of like, you know, go down on. So again, it's you as a commission, as staff, we're here to support you. And whichever way you want to, like, you know, look at slicing and dicing that, it will definitely be here to assist. So that is our July meeting. And then in August, we actually don't have a meeting, but trust me, by that point, you'll be happy for the break. But in the past, we have occasionally met in August, but if we can, or what we may do is add another meeting in July. It just really depends on the commission and how far you've come in that process. So any questions before we move on to September?
It's not easy because sometimes let's reduce everybody by 12% or something. Doesn't help some of those very small organizations that are very, very needing of funding.
And
let's talk about the regional good versus those things that directly affect our citizenry, our residents.
So we'll talk about that at the next meeting. But yes, absolutely. We'll look at the regional good versus Sammamish focus versus some organizations that maybe don't serve Sammamish residents, but maybe perhaps homelessness providers that are serving like the East Side. So we'll go through that as a commission. Like as staff, like we understand it's a big undertaking, and so we are always available, and even as a subgroup and individually, as staff, we have a lot of sort of historical knowledge. So not only when you're looking at the application, but you can ask questions or you maybe want more information, and as staff, we can find that out for you. And then we can also provide context to you as well. Like an application may look fantastic, but if they weren't able to achieve their service units, then, I always say this to providers, like the commission allocated this funding not with the intent of saving money, like they want it out in the community. But in order to allocate that funding, you need to have given your deliverables, right? You need to, and so as staff, we're able to give you that context of, yes, they've been able to achieve their deliverables in the past, or no, they have not, for the past year and a half, whatever. Like, so we're able to definitely provide that context and to you all. Yeah.
As the first time through this process, can I restate something to see if I got it right? So we will be splitting into 3 subgroups, and one of the subgroups will have all 3 of those application reviews, and the other 2 will just have 1 application review each.
Yeah, so the reason being is that mental wellness and basic needs tend to have the largest number of applications, and then cultural inclusion, domestic violence, and seniors tend to be smaller. I mean, that could change. We'll see and review, each of the applications go into the bucket, but yeah, and that's why basic needs is always the last one, because it's always the biggest one. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide.
Some of us came up with our own spreadsheet variety to be able to carry things across multiple columns so we could have the information in front of us and not just the little original survey.
So I think each commissioner has a different way, and there's no right or wrong way. It's whatever floats your boat. Like if you recall when you would revise for exams, right? Everyone had different techniques. So there's no right or wrong, but again, staff is here. And if you have other, if you need more information, if you need context, if we'll be able to connect with a nonprofit or give you any information you might need. So then August, hopefully we'll have a break in August, just so you know, it's all commissions and city council that have a break in August. But again, if we may, depending on how we do, we may have a second meeting in July. We'll just play that by ear. And then in September, we come back after our recess, and that's when we're going to be really finalizing, refining our grant recommendations. So as a commission, you will be going to council tentatively in October to present your recommendation. And so the September meeting really is the commission to discuss how they want to do that. In the past, we've had just the chair and the vice chair present, or we've had each commissioner say something. A staff will help you come up with a recommendation letter, and there'll also be a PowerPoint and for you to go over. So our September meeting was really trying to understand how you guys want to, as a commission, communicate that to City Council. And then on Tuesday, October the 13th, we are tentatively on the calendar, and that's the grant recommendation handoff to City Council. Again, it's a recommendation as a commission, and it's up to City Council to yay or nay it. And so they're able to, and bear in mind, we have this big Excel spreadsheet with like maybe, gosh, I'm trying to think how many applications did we have the last time, Commissioner Bottomberg? Many, like over 80 plus applications, right? And so, I know in the past, like certain city councils, it just depends. Someone would ask a particular question. And just bear in mind, when you make the recommendation, as staff, we are here. So, you know what, we can easily just come in and just, answer a question if it's, because it's sometimes a little bit intimidating to be up there and you're like, there's 80 applications, I don't know more. But yeah, so then there'll be questions, and then I think during that recommendation, the commission will be able to talk to the reasoning as to how you came up with that number, and really talk to how you came up with the recommendation. And that's Tuesday, October the 13th. And we'll try and make sure we get to be one of the first items on the agenda. I'll ask, why not, right? We don't want to be here at 11. And then in November, we have a meeting to be determined. And then on December the 9th, we'll have our year in review and third quarter reporting. So we definitely have a very, very busy year ahead of us. But yeah, I think, this will be our 5th go around of grant applications. And I think it's quite refined, and it's also just very interesting because every commission has a different approach and a different way of reviewing applications, of coming up with recommendations. So as staff, our job is just to support you. So yeah, it'll be a fun year. Any questions?
If folks are on vacation during the summer, are we expecting them to zoom into these subgroups, or?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, no one's allowed to go anyway. And listen, you're all going to be tagged with alarms. And if you leave Sammamish, it's going to go off and I will have to come find you. That's a great question. So I think if you know of vacation plans ahead of time, please let me know, because then, look, this is a volunteer, you're all volunteering for this. So if you know that you're going to be away on a particular month or a particular week, let me know. And then we can try and get you into another subgroup ahead of time. Again, I appreciate everyone's got a life and it's, vacation time. So, in the past, if you can't attend, then if someone else in your subgroup can, be at the meeting, then they can also speak to, because when you're coming back to the commission as a subgroup, you've made an agreement, right? So it's not like you're all if there's 2 people in a subgroup, you're not all coming here and saying, I do this and I want this. You've made an agreement ahead of time and you're presenting to the commission as a whole on a number that you've agreed on and justification on why you've agreed on that. So yeah, there are ways around it, Commissioner Williams. So yeah, you're allowed to go on vacation. Yes.
Sorry. I should have looked first. I don't see any, this is fine, but I don't see any presentations by nonprofits this coming year like we had last year. And I think that matches with what you said last year was Year of Learning, but I'm curious if there's any involvement here like there was last year.
Great question. So I think last year, as you saw, it was the Year of Learning where you did site visits and you heard from nonprofits, coming in and having that. So we really don't have the bandwidth. If you look at the calendar, it really is chock-a-blocker. You're busy every month, and there may even be an extra 1 or 2 meetings in that time frame. We would love to have you twice a month, but we also know this is a volunteer position and you need to have a life. So that's why we always say our our year of like not reviewing grants is our year of learning. So, but again, if there are questions as a commissioner that you would like answered, like please reach out to staff and we can definitely get information back to you.
When you say staff, Rita, is it just you and Mike, or are there others?
Compare
It's me.
yourself to the other cities, please.
I'm a 0.75.
It's about 5 in Redmond and 4 in Issaquah, and I have no question what Kirkland is, but it's not fair.
Kirkland's expanding. Kirkland's got, wow, they've got a human services manager, human services supervisor, 3 human service coordinators.
So they're above Redmond now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But you know what? We're small but mighty. Yeah.
They have a bigger business property tax funding potential than we do.
So it's just you and Mike.
It's
It's
Rita's
Rita.
75% is what we have, and she does everything. She manages it phenomenally.
I get really good snacks. And by the way, if you don't eat those snacks, they won't be here next month. So please just eat some snacks. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a fun year, and please don't be overwhelmed. I know it looks like a lot, and it is a lot, but it isn't. It is and it isn't. I don't know. Like, I think as staff, we really try and make it as clean, as easy for you as possible. And again, like, we're always available. So however you and whoever else is in your subgroup wants to review those applications, we'll make it work.
And the applications are online, or you can have them printed out. I'm a printed out type because I like to highlight things. So
Commissioner Bottenberg, can you please refrain from talking about printing them out, because
it's this much. It's terrible.
Commissioner Bottenberg, I mean, seriously, I mean, yeah, okay, technically, if you want them printed out, I can print them out for you. And I've done it before, and for all applications. But also have it online. But
they are online.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
I have a question. So we do all this work and then we hand it off to the city council and they look at it for just a couple of minutes and make their decision? Is that how it works? They're not unable to view it before we present that to them? It's not something that they can see, like, the process into it? Because it seems like a lot of work goes into this for just like a decision in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Welcome to being on a commission. So I think council really, like, when they have you come on the commission, they see you as the experts in that field, and you have been like appointed by city council. And so what will happen is that, again, this is an open meeting. Anyone can come, and a council member can come, they can view, they can ask questions. But, I believe that they feel like, as a commission, you've done your due diligence and you've been very thorough. You have a process. And during that recommendation, you'll be talking about the process as well. And so it will be a presentation. There might be some questions from, again, like, there's no way of gauging it, but there might be some questions from council members. They may get very specific, or it may just be a very broad question. But, throughout all the grant cycles, they've been nothing but appreciative of the fact that they don't have to go through over 100+ applications, 1,000 pages of text, and they're very appreciative that as a commission, you've undertook that. But yes, it seems, I mean, as a commission, you'll make that recommendation, you'll talk about the process, and yeah.
Do we get like a longer scheduled time and not like the 3 minutes that walk-ins get? Or
yeah, no, much more. So it's not like public comment. So it's not public comment, and you can take as long as you want. What will happen is you'll make the presentation. It could be done in 10 minutes. It could be 35 minutes. There's no way of knowing. But yes, no. The buzzer doesn't go off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually they do not approve and disapprove in that meeting.
Okay, so we
So
won't
they
hear
can
that at
always
that time?
review what you have presented and then go back to them and ask more questions if they want before taking the actual decision.
Yeah, yeah. So Commissioner Mishra, they tend to yay or nay it at the meeting. But yes, again, it's council's prerogative. They can also ask questions, and and then if we don't have the answers, we can come back to them. But that doesn't tend to be the case. It's on their calendar. I'm assuming city manager and everyone will just keep them apprised as to this is what's happening and the commission's reviewing. So yeah.
If it were to get rejected, is that something we'd have to revisit and then represent? I'm sure it's not happened before, but I'm just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's never happened
Okay.
before. Yeah. The only thing that's happened before is that the commission's come up with a number and then they had an additional ask. And the last go round, the additional ask was not like the original ask they approved, but they didn't approve the additional ask. So what we kind of did is that we had a spreadsheet of this is the number that we got to, but if you gave us, the commission wants that this much extra, and this is what it would look like. And so yeah, so they rejected the additional ask. That's the only time they said no.
Was that on 2 separate votes or just one vote
Just
without?
the one vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's within the budget, they do not question how much have you given which nonprofit.
They can do. It's their prerogative. Yeah, yeah. They can absolutely ask and be like, "Oh, I see you've given this organization this amount of money. Why?" I mean, it's really there's no way of knowing what they'll ask. But you know what? I feel like at that point, you guys are very well. You guys are the experts. You've spent countless hours reviewing applications. Talking, understanding, deliberating as the whole commission. So, yeah.
And also, I'm just thinking, last time around, they were very receptive and appreciative of the work we did, and there weren't a lot of questions. But there are new council members this time, so it may be altogether different.
Yeah.
Now I was gauging more on the rejection criteria. What happens so that they get to a point where they reject it and be like, no, work on it again.
That's never happened.
That's never happened. Okay.
Yeah,
No,
again,
that's all I wanted.
I know. I know.
to know.
You're like, what, 75 applications again? Again, you're.
I mean, not read them, but redo the numbers. Like the distribution doesn't look good to me. And you've probably focused the money more on nonprofits who don't,
more than
I wouldn't say who don't need them, but yeah, I mean, the distribution doesn't look good.
But again, it's all very subjective. And I feel like as a commission, you guys get to decide where you think that is. And so, and this is a discussion we can have in our April meeting, what does that look like? Do you want to focus on certain areas? Do you want to so it's a very that's you guys as a commission will come up with your own recommendation and your formula and why you think as staff, we've never been in a position where a commission's made a recommendation for city council where we're not 110% confident that you guys have it, because you do. Because it seems really overwhelming and you're doing a lot, but you've done the work as well. And there's a process, and it's not arbitrary. It's a process, and there's a formula and there's a process, and it's very methodical. You look at it everybody looks at the applications individually. You all have your scorecard where you're like, no, this one doesn't, and you look at it individually, then you review it together with your subgroup, and then you go to the commission, and then as a whole, and then there's a lot of back and forth. And so by the time you get to the council recommendation, you are the experts.
Yeah, so backing it up with the right reasoning and presenting it with confidence of what you've done in the past so many months.
Yeah,
that kind of sails the boat forward.
Yeah, and then also look, I also appreciate, like as staff, we also appreciate it can be very daunting. Like you've got all these applications, but the good thing is you have staff there, and we can just and that's happened in the past. Like, I've had a council member say, well, why did this organization not get money? And the commission was, and then I was able to say, well, they were not able to achieve their service units, their deliverables, the last go. So so as staff, we're there as well, to just be there as backup. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
We'll be okay.
It's actually a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
last year was my
it's-
first time doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And actually it's a lot of action packed thing. And you really then understand that you've been put to service.
Mhm.
And that the confidence you gain, and then yeah, it's a good feeling to have. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
something I'm looking forward to.
I think it's really impactful because, last year was our year of learning, and that was great. But this is like you're getting money out into the community, and it's very gratifying. Yeah. And
Putting
then,
our learning
you'll also
streams.
have, situations where you might not decide to fund an organization, and then that it can sometimes be very awkward. We've had in the past organizations come in and give public comment because they realized they weren't getting funding. And yeah.
I remember that.
Have reason.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the equity training. I'm glad that you did the work to set that up, because I feel like that will provide us with a stable foundation to be prepared for that type of thing, because we've done the work to lay that strong foundation of equity.
Yeah. And so I've also requested that we have some pre-work as well, because I think it's when we go into that joint equity training, everybody has a different, some people are super well versed, some people I don't know what equity is. So I feel like for all of us to be in that room, to have some sort of pre-work and pre-reading. So I've really push for that. So I'm working with the nonprofit that's going to be, they're called Communities Rise, and they did it the last go round. And I've really pushed to make sure that all commissioners get some sort of pre-work before they go into that training. And it will be also really fun as well to learn together with your peers in the neighboring cities. I think that's very cool.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that? And we'll go ahead and move on to staff report.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting one because I had most of December off, and there was Thanksgiving and everything else. So this is not a conventional staff report. And just so you know, I'm in the throes of doing fourth quarter reporting. So I'm in the throes of that. So the next meeting, I'll definitely give a debrief on the fourth quarter reporting. But in staff report, we're going to be welcoming our new Human Services Commissioner at the next meeting. Jisha Gavin, I didn't know, Azon Q is here. Jisha was voted in last night's city council meeting. She'll be attending as our new commissioner in our February meeting, which means it's all the more bittersweet to say farewell to our one and only Joyce Bottenberg. Joyce, we're so indebted to you, and you leave very large shoes to fill. That's for sure.
Yes.
Joyce, you're the longest serving commissioner, serving since 2018 when the commission started. So from 2018,
The task force.
I was going to mention that. Don't worry. So she was our OG commissioner in 2018 when we were a new fledgling commission. And prior to joining the commission, was also involved as a member of the Human Services Task Force. So before the commission, we had a task force, and Joyce was a member of that. And then for the 3 years that you were on the task force, you also got some great community input for the first ever Health and Human Services Needs Assessment that we did, and made sure that you had community involvement and input, and that was out in 2017. You've worked on 4 grant application cycles, contributing to the commission giving over, now listen to this number, $2,530,526 during this time. That's quite a fabulous number, and that's not too shabby. So you should feel very great about the fact that you were able to get that amount of money into the community. So yes, we want to thank you for all that you've done. Also, exemplary attendance in all the years. Commissioner Bottenberg's only missed 1 meeting, and that's because she was traveling with her beloved husband, Norm, and her 3 dogs on a campsite. And I know that you did try to
In Death Valley.
So anyway, we want to thank you for all the work that you've done at the city. And I haven't even mentioned the contribution you've made outside of the commission, but you know, we're very, very lucky to have had you for as long as we have. And Sammamish is that much brighter, safer, and happier because of you. So thank you for everything you've done.
Yes, thanks.
Just as an FYI, those grant proposals that come in, some of them are 10 pages, single space with spreadsheets. Thank you, beautiful.
Oh, beautiful,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, thank you, Joyce, for all your time. And not only, gosh, with the commission, but for everything else you do, because you are insight into so many other organizations and groups that are going on, and you know, the seniors and everything. Well, I don't know, it's just years of experience as well as current involvement that I don't know if any of us will ever replicate. But
Well, now I live 20 feet outside of Sammamish because of the middle of 228th. I'm on the Issaquah side as compared to the Sammamish side.
you're on the wrong side of the tracks, huh?
Right.
Commissioner reports.
Well, we've all tried to learn as much as possible from you. We've always been asking questions in every meeting and appreciate that.
Now, as you delve into all these grant proposals, you're going to get a real good feeling as to what is available and how we can get that information out to people who need services too. And of course, I will always put into that little thing that we did the Burke study in 2016 and 17. We presented it to the council in 18. That information is old,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, it was pricey then,
Mhm.
but it might be worthwhile doing a redo.
How
Really?
pricey?
What?
How pricey?
What is about 75,000?
Yeah, it went over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was 8 years ago. So I'm assuming double that now.
We saw
Right?
3 different potential work groups to take on that evaluation, the feasibility study. And it's old information.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had COVID since then, the isolation factor,
Population
the lack
explosion?
of development in town center to keep people here, the affordability level. There's the AMI, you know, affordable housing, but then there's also the mid-market one. You know, for those of us who are downsizing,
Mm-hmm.
it's like thank God we have an Ace Hardware again, but we need more than that there. We need people, we need retail, we need places to meet.
Are you still involved with the 520 or 420 building, or are you?
3C.
Pardon?
C3, the
3C.
Community and Cultural Collective that's studying the availability of facilities for being able to have a community center, which may or may not be the building 120,
Mm-hmm.
but it's at this point vacant of all but the 3 renters that have been there all along, the Y, a tutoring group and another group. But it costs the city about, was it $19,000 a month to be able to maintain the building.
Mm-hmm.
And the C3 group is interested in providing a income source to keep it open and use it in the meanwhile feasibility study can take multiple years because, there's the wetland, there's the potential of this and that, the building falling, it's not the right building structure. It looks like a Costco, as far as walls structured with a roof on top. But it could be very much used at this point. It could become a senior center by day and a after-school youth program. It could have all these upstairs and downstairs rooms available for groups to meet, businesses to meet their clients, because there's several thousand, home businesses in this city with no place to go. I mean, two of the old Starbucks are gone. It's like, where can we do this? So that's the one I'm most involved in. I also do the monthly report for the Samama Senior Program. Many of you get the newsletter or could get it if you asked. And I'm also involved with a few other projects, but I still do Red Cross duty work after hours, 1 week on every 6 weeks. So that's a 5 p.m. Friday to an 8 a.m. the following Friday. Disaster relief for the state media.
All right.
That's the fun one because I can stay home.
Yeah.
In the old days, we used to go to the site of it, but that was a King County size. This is a state and
Oh.
Idaho size. Keep out of mischief.
Yeah, you're busy. You're going to continue to be very busy.
I intend to.
Yeah. So I hope we see you.
Mhm. And I liked spreadsheets. Thank you. I've enjoyed my time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've learned a lot from you, although I still never learned.
Motion, second,
Robert's-
discussion, vote.
It's a good thing it's the end of my term as president,
Chair.
chair. See?
It's good to have, a change. And I did
It is.
2 years as the commission chair.
All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you again. Is there, let's see, any commissioners report?
Well, I enjoy I would say the Beaver Lake Lodge program for Tai Chi and pop in there once a week. And I continue to say the space occupancy of 60 people when there's over 17,000 people over age 50 in Sammamish is not sufficient. It's a program that has a fitness, a project, which could be a speaker or crafts or games, and then it has lunch, and that's all that can fit in there. Because the building is small, it doesn't have option rooms for, bridge players on one side and knitters on another side and fitness in the middle, because you don't have enough space to put out your arms to be able to do a yoga or even a dance program. The meals are fantastic. It's $5 for lunch if you wanted to go. And you don't really have to be old to go in there. Children. But we deserve better.
Yeah.
We need something big,
Uh-huh.
like Issaquah and Redmond and
Yeah.
even Carnation and North Bend.
Mhm.
2 of them are run as nonprofits and 2 of them are run by the Parks Department. Great programs.
Wow.
IACS is doing a very good job with what they have there.
Mhm.
That's it.
Well, I know you'll keep advocating for that.
Oh,
so
I'm right.
that's good. Any other commission reports?
Will you run for council, Joyce?
Nope. I
Might be
think
able to
planning
get the
commission is
building.
where you really have to delve deep. And then the council gets these 900-page agendas to look at what has already been looked at by other groups. And it's a lot of study. Don't need that.
Okay, so that nothing else. Next meeting agenda topics.
This meeting agenda topics are the fourth quarter reporting, welcoming the new commissioner, Govin, election of chair and vice chair, reviewing commission bylaws, and fourth quarter grant reporting.
Okay. Man, that. All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add before we adjourn? Okay, well then we'll just call this meeting a little earlier than normal, but it was a short meeting, so we'll just adjourn at 7:41.
Go grab some snacks.
Oh, yeah.